Title: I fell asleep on the last train out of Chicago. The station I woke up at isn't on any map, and the passengers have stopped breathing. Subreddit r/no sleep. Posted by u/late night commuter 88. Time: 4 hours ago. I don't know if this is going to post. I've been hitting retry on the upload button for what feels like 20 minutes, holding my phone up toward the weird, pulsating fluorescent light in the station waiting room. The signal bar keeps flickering between a symbol I don't recognize. It looks like a jagged spiral, and no service. If you're reading this, please, for the love of God, take a screenshot. Send help. Don't just scroll past. My name is David. I'm 28. I work in logistics. I'm normal. This morning, I was worried about my credit score and a leak in my bathroom sink. Now, I'm hiding in a bathroom stall that smells like sulfur and old blood, trying not to breathe too loud because they are outside. It started at 11:45 p.m. I took the blue line toward O'Hare. I was supposed to get off at Logan Square, but it had been a head of a week. Double shifts, a breakup, the works. I sat down in one of those corner seats, leaned my head against the cold glass, and let the rhythmic clack whoosh of the train lull me. I remember closing my eyes just as we passed the vision. I woke up because of the silence. If you ride the L, you know it's never silent. Even when stopped, there's the hum of the electric rails, the hiss of hydraulics, the mumble of a drunk guy 3 seats down. But this was absolute vacuum-sealed silence. I sat up, wiping drool from my chin. My neck was stiff. The car was empty. Not just empty of people, but clean. Too clean. The grit, the grime, the scratch tags on the windows, the sticky soda stains on the floor, gone. The floor was a polished, sterile gray. The lights overhead weren't the usual yellowish tubes. They were a stark, blinding white that made my eyes water. I looked out the window. Nothing. Just pitch black. No tunnel lights, no passing platforms, just an abyss pressed against the glass. The doors hissed open. They didn't make the usual ding-dong chime. It was more like a wet suction sound, like a boot being pulled out of mud. I stepped out. I figured I must have ridden to the end of the line, and maybe the train was out of service, sitting in a maintenance depot. I was ready to apologize to a pissed-off CTA worker and ask for an Uber. I stepped onto the platform, and the cold hit me. It wasn't winter cold. It was a damp, heavy chill that seeped right through my jacket. The station was massive, vaulted ceilings that went up so high they disappeared in the shadow. The walls were tiled in obsidian black stone, seamless and slick. There were no advertisements, no call 1-800-lawyer billboards, no maps of the city, just a single long platform stretching endlessly in both directions. "Hello?" I called out. My voice didn't echo. The sound just died the moment it left my throat, absorbed by the heavy air. I walked toward the stairs, looking for an exit sign. That's when I saw the sign hanging over the escalator. It didn't say exit or give a street name. It was a metal placard, rusted around the edges, with embossed letters, Terminus 0. I pulled out my phone, 2:13 a.m., but the date was wrong. It didn't say October 14th. It just said no. I tried to call 911. The call connected instantly, which gave me a burst of relief, but there was no operator, just a sound. It sounded like wet tearing, like someone ripping a raw steak apart over and over again, set to a rhythmic metronome beat. I hung up, my hands shaking. I walked up the escalator. It wasn't moving. The steps were metal, but they felt soft under my feet, slightly yielding. I tried not to think about that. At the top of the stairs, I found the turnstiles. They were welded shut. Beyond them lay a city, or what pretended to be a city. I looked through the bars of the gate. The sky was a bruising purple, lit by no moon or stars, just an ambient sick luminescence from the clouds themselves. The buildings were monoliths of concrete, brutalist nightmares with no windows, towering hundreds of stories into the haze. And there were people. At least I thought they were people at first. Hundreds of them. They were standing in the plaza outside the station. Men in trench coats, women in 1950s dresses, children in school uniforms. They were all facing the station,
facing me. But they didn't move. They were statuesque. I shouted, "Hey, can someone help me? The gates are locked." At the sound of my voice, they moved, not individually, unison. Every single head snapped toward me at the exact same instant. I recoiled, stumbling back. They didn't have faces. Where a face should be, eyes, nose, mouth, there was just smooth, pale skin, like a mannequin, but made of living flesh. No, wait, not entirely smooth. In the center of where the face should be, there was a single vertical slit, stitched shut with thick black wire. I scrambled back down the escalator, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I needed to get back on the train. Even if it wasn't moving, it was safer than this. I ran back to the platform. The train was gone. In the 5 minutes I'd been upstairs, the train had vanished, silently. The track was empty. I looked down into the track bed. It wasn't gravel and wooden ties. It was a trough of black liquid, thick and viscous, rippling slightly. That was about an hour ago. I'm currently in a small room off the main platform. It looks like a station master's office. There's a desk, a chair, and a logbook. I barricaded the door with the desk. I can hear them coming down the escalator. They don't walk. I listen to the footsteps. It's a dragging sound. Scrape, thud, scrape, thud. There's so many of them. I opened the logbook on the desk. I needed a weapon, something heavy, but I got distracted by what was written inside. It's handwritten in frantic, jagged scrawl. The ink looks fresh. Here's the last entry. Cycle 9403. The flesh takers are hungry. The train only comes when the tribute is ready. I tried to offer my arm, but they want the eyes. They always want the eyes so they can watch the impossible geometry of the below. If you are reading this, do not look at the tracks. The liquid is conscious. Do not open the door for the faceless. Wait for the brass train. It screams before it arrives. It's the only way out. I hear scratching at the door. Soft, tentative scratching, like fingernails on a chalkboard, but gentler. "Open up," a voice says. It sounds like my mom. I know it's not her. My mom lives in Florida. My mom has a thick smoker's cough. This voice is perfect, melodious, devoid of breath. "David," the voice croons, "we have a ticket for you. The conductor is waiting." I'm huddled in the corner. I'm typing this as fast as I can. Wait, I hear something else. Far off down the tunnel. A scream. Not a human scream, a mechanical scream. Metal grinding against metal. Steam escaping under immense pressure. It's getting louder. The scratching at the door has stopped. The things outside, they've gone silent. I think the brass train is coming. I have a choice to make. I can stay here and eventually they'll break the door down, or I can run for the platform when the train arrives. But the logbook, the entry before the last one, I missed it. I just read it now. The brass train does not go home. It goes deeper, but deeper is better than here. The screaming of the train is deafening now. The whole room is shaking. Dust is falling from the ceiling. The light is strobing violently. I'm going to run for it. If I don't update this, I missed the train. Or I caught it. I don't know which is worse.
Update 1. Time. Null. I made it. I think I made it. The moments after I posted the first part are a blur of adrenaline and terror. I moved the desk. The scratching had stopped, but I knew they were waiting. When I threw the door open, the platform was swarming with them, the faceless, hundreds of them, standing shoulder to shoulder in silence. But they weren't looking at me anymore. They were recoiling, pressing themselves against the back walls, away from the tracks. The train roared into the station. It wasn't a sleek CTA car. It looked like a steam locomotive from hell. It was made of tarnished brass and iron, dripping with oil and that same black sludge from the tracks. It didn't have wheels. It seemed to hover inches above the liquid, propelled by aggressive bursts of steam. The heat coming off it was scorching. It smelled like burning hair. The doors, heavy iron grates, slammed open. "Board," a voice boomed. It didn't come from a loudspeaker. It felt like it vibrated out of the walls themselves. I ran. I didn't look at the faceless, but as I sprinted past them, I felt fingers brush my jacket, cold, wet fingers. I heard the stitches on their faces tearing. I heard the wet suction of mouths opening that shouldn't open. I dove into the train car just as the iron gate slammed shut. A split second later, something slammed against the outside of the gate. A pale hand, severed at the wrist, fell onto the floor of the car. It twitched once, then dissolved into a puddle of gray slush. The train lurched forward with a violence that threw me to the floor. We were moving, fast. I scrambled up and looked around. The interior of this train is luxurious, but in a twisted Victorian way. Red velvet seats that look like they're bleeding. Mahogany walls carved with scenes of torture. The lighting is dim, provided by gas lamps flickering on the walls. There are other passengers. I'm sitting 3 rows back from a man, or a humanoid, wearing a suit made of sewn-together rat skins. He hasn't moved. Across from him is a woman weeping silently, but her tears are black ink. She's knitting something that looks suspiciously like intestines. No one is looking at me. I'm trying to make myself small. I check my phone. The battery is at 12%, even though it was full when I left work. The signal is holding steady on that spiral symbol. I looked out the window a moment ago. We aren't in a tunnel. We're flying over a landscape. It looks like Chicago, but ruined. The Willis Tower is there, but it's bent in half, the top section dangling by rebar. The lake is on fire, and the sky is full of things that look like jellyfish floating through the air, trailing long electric tentacles that zap the buildings below. I just want to go home. The conductor is coming down the aisle. He's tall, impossibly tall. He has to hunch over to avoid hitting the gas lamps. His uniform is impeccable, blue with gold buttons. But his head is a bird cage, literally a brass bird cage. Inside, there is a crow, hopping from perch to perch. He is asking for tickets. I don't have a ticket. The guy in the rat-skin suit handed him a finger, a human finger. The conductor took it, punched a hole in the nail with a hole puncher, and handed it back. He's 2 rows away. I'm frantically searching my pockets. I have my wallet, my keys, a pack of gum, and a receipt from 7-Eleven. Wait, the logbook. I shoved it in my jacket before I ran. I'm opening it. Maybe there's a rule about the conductor. Found it. The conductor does not accept money. He accepts memories. If you do not have a physical token of a memory strong enough to feed the engine, he will take the memory directly from your head. You will forget who you are. Then you become one of the faceless. Give him something that hurts to lose. He sat the row in front of me. The weeping woman offered him the scarf of intestines. He nodded and moved on. He's standing over me now. The crow in the cage is staring at me. Its eyes are human. "Ticket!" the crow squawks. The voice sounds like my father. I'm trembling. I have to give him something that holds a memory. I have a photo in my wallet. It's the only physical photo I carry. Me and Sarah at the beach 3 years ago. Before the cheating, before the screaming fights, before the divorce. It was the happiest day of my life. I keep it because it reminds me that I was happy once. It hurts to look at it. I'm holding it out. The conductor's gloved hand is reaching for it. The crow is screeching. I'll update if I survive this.
Update 2. Time. The spiral is spinning backwards. He took it. He took the photo. He held it up to the bird cage. The crow pecked at it, tearing Sarah's face out of the picture. I felt a sharp pain in my head, like an ice pick behind my right eye. And then, I felt something vanish. I know the photo was important. I know the woman in it meant something to me. I know her name was Sarah, but I can't remember how her laugh sounded. I can't remember the color of her eyes. I can't remember why I loved her. The emotional weight of it is gone. It's just a piece of paper now. Accepted.
The crow squawked. The conductor punched a hole in the photo and handed it back. I'm safe for now, but I feel lighter, hollowed out. We've been riding for what feels like hours. The scenery outside has changed. The burning city gave way to a desert of gray ash. Now we are passing through a forest, but the trees are made of bone, giant white femurs and ribs twisting up into the sky. The train is slowing down. An announcement is coming over the system. It's a whisper, intimate and terrifying, right in my ear. Next stop, the Foundry of Lost Things. Passengers for the reconstruction, please depart. Passengers for the void, please remain seated. The rat-skin suit guy stood up. He looks excited. I don't know where to get off. The Foundry sounds like work. The void sounds like death. I leaned across the aisle to the weeping woman. "Excuse me," I whispered. "Where does this train go? The end of the line?" She stopped knitting. She turned her head. Her eyes were pools of ink dripping down her cheeks. "The line is a circle, sweetie," she said. Her voice was wet. "It doesn't end. It just goes down. You missed your stop 3 cycles ago." "How do I get back to Chicago?" She laughed. It sounded like bubbles popping in thick mud. "You gave him your memory of love. You can't go back to the waking world without an anchor. You're lighter now. You belong to the gravity of this place." My blood ran cold. "There has to be a way." "There is," she said, pointing a knitting needle toward the front of the car. "The engine. The engineer can send you back, but he charges a higher price than the conductor." "What does he want?" "A life," she whispered. "A replacement. You want to go back to your world? You have to send someone else here in your place." The train has stopped. We're at the Foundry. It looks like a massive industrial complex, pipes spewing green gas. The sound of hammers ringing against anvils is deafening. I see people on the platform here, normal-looking people. They look confused, terrified. They're wandering around in pajamas, business suits, work uniforms. New arrivals. I realize what this place is. It's where the lost people go, the missing persons reports, the milk carton kids. I'm staying on the train. I'm going to the engine. I'm going to find the engineer. I don't want to die here. I don't want to become a faceless or a statue or a memoryless husk. I have 8% battery left. I'm walking toward the front of the train now. The heat is getting unbearable. The walls of the cars are pulsating, like the train is alive. I just passed a car full of children. They were all sleeping, floating in midair. I'm at the door to the engine room. It's not a door, it's a giant mouth, a metal maw with rotating gears for teeth. I have to crawl through it. If I make it back, I'm sorry for what I have to do. Remember what the woman said, a replacement. If you're reading this, and suddenly you smell sulfur, and the lights in your room start to flicker, I'm so sorry. I just want to go home. The gears are opening. I'm going inside. Connection lost.
Title: I stayed late to fix a legacy server. I think I've been uploaded and it's not like the movies. Subreddit r/no sleep. Posted by u/datacruncher89. Look, I don't have much time. The cursor is blinking in the corner of my vision. A rhythmic white monolith that's giving me a migraine, and the task manager's hunting me. I can hear its gears grinding 2 sectors over. If you're reading this, please, for the love of God, do not turn off your computer. If you turn it off while you're reading, the connection breaks, and I think I get fragmented. Just hear me out. My name is Arthur. I worked for a mid-sized logistics firm in Ohio. You know the type. Beige walls, gray carpet that smells like wet dog and ozone, and a break room where the coffee tastes like battery acid. I'm a junior sysadmin. It sounds fancy, but mostly I just tell boomers to restart their Outlook and reset passwords for people who type with 2 fingers. It happened yesterday, or maybe a week ago.
Time doesn't work right here. It loops. I stayed late to work on The Beast. Every office has one. It's that one legacy machine, usually running Windows 2000 or XP, tucked away in a dusty corner of the server room. It runs a proprietary database written in 1998 by a guy named Gary who died of a stroke 10 years ago. Nobody knows how the code works. Nobody dares touch it. But the Beast holds all the shipping manifest archives. The Beast had been acting up, corrupting files, spitting out gibberish. My boss, a man whose neck is wider than his forehead, dropped a sticky note on my desk at 5:55 p.m. Fix the archive retrieval on Unit 4. Don't leave until it's green. So I stayed. The office emptied out. The cleaning crew came and went, the vacuum cleaners roaring and fading like dying beasts. By 9 p.m., it was just me and the Beast. The server room was freezing. The AC is always cranked up to preserve the hardware. I sat on a milk crate in front of the CRT monitor. Yes, a cathode ray tube, the kind that hums and makes the hair on your arm stand up. I was 3 hours into digging through spaghetti code that looked like it was written by a drunk spider. My eyes were burning. The screen flickered, the geometry of the text dancing slightly. Then a command prompt opened on its own. System integrity compromised. Input required. I sighed, assuming it was a scheduled script I hadn't noticed. I typed CHKDSK/F. The prompt didn't run the check. Instead, it replied instantly. Physical input required. What the hell? I muttered. I reached for the mouse, but the ball was stuck. I slapped the side of the monitor, the universal fix for old tech. The screen didn't just flicker this time, it rippled. Imagine dropping a stone into a pond of mercury. The glass surface of the monitor undulated, wet and oily. The text on the screen dissolved into black, dripping sludge. I should have run. I should have unplugged the damn thing and walked out. But the lizard brain is a stupid thing. I was fascinated. I reached out and touched the glass. My finger didn't hit a solid surface. It went in. It was freezing, cold like liquid nitrogen, but heavy like tar. I tried to pull my hand back, but the substance, the pixels, the liquid crystal, whatever it was, clamped down. It felt like thousands of tiny needles piercing my skin, wiring themselves into my nerves. New hardware detected. Installing drivers. The text floated in the air in front of my face, not on the screen, in the air. Panic set in. I yanked my arm, bracing my feet against the desk. The monitor groaned, the plastic casing cracking. The suction was impossible. I watched, screaming, as my wrist dissolved into the screen. My skin wasn't melting, it was pixelating. Blocks of flesh turned into squares of green and black data, spiraling down a drain I couldn't see. "Help!" I screamed, but the room was soundproofed. The cold shot up my shoulder. It hit my chest. My heart didn't stop. It just changed its rhythm. Thump, thump became click, whir. The last thing I saw was the empty server room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Then the monitor swallowed my head.
Update. I found a text editor. The font is jagged. It hurts to look at. I woke up on the floor. But it wasn't a floor. It was a grid. A limitless, flat plane of dark gray linoleum that stretched out to an infinite horizon. Above me, the sky was the color of a Windows error screen, a flat, oppressive teal blue. There was no sun, just a diffuse, sickly light that cast no shadows. I stood up. My body felt wrong, lighter. I looked at my hands. They were blocky. If I focused hard, they looked like hands, but if I let my focus drift, they jagged at the edges, suffering from bad anti-aliasing. The smell was the first thing that really hit me. You'd think inside a computer it would be sterile. It's not. It smells like burning dust, stale copper, and rotting ozone. It smells like an electrical fire that never quite ignites.
I was standing in what looked like a city, but the architecture was insane. The buildings were towering filing cabinets, hundreds of stories high, made of rusted metal. Some drawers were open, spilling out reams of paper that fluttered down like dead birds. "Hello?" I called out. My voice didn't echo. It just fell flat, dampened by the static in the air. A sound answered me, a deep, resonant bong. The Windows XP era sound, but it was loud enough to shake the ground beneath me. I started walking. I didn't know where else to go. I passed a massive structure labeled recycle bin. It was a crater, a literal pit in the ground miles wide. I looked over the edge. Down in the darkness, things were moving, broken things. I saw a man down there, or something that used to be a man. He was half-rendered. His legs were missing, replaced by a glitched, stretching texture that pulled into infinity. He was clawing at the walls of the pit, his mouth opening in a silent scream. Above his head, a floating tag read corrupt_sector_04. I stumbled back, retching, but I had nothing to throw up, just static. I needed to find the output. I needed a monitor. I ran through the labyrinth of file cabinets. The ground hummed beneath my feet, a constant vibration of the hard drive spinning at 7,200 RPM. It was maddening. That's when I saw the Watcher. It wasn't a person. It was a floating eye, red and glowing, tethered to the ground by thick black coaxial cables. It swept back and forth like a spotlight. Norton.exe is scanning. The words boomed from the sky like the voice of God. I hid behind a stack of .jpeg files, literal giant picture frames showing frozen, grainy images of shipping containers. The red light swept over me. I held my breath. It passed. I kept moving until I found the edge of the world, or at least the edge of the partition. It was a wall of glass, massive, kilometers high. Through it, I saw a giant, blurry world. I saw a desk. I saw a coffee mug the size of a water tower. I was looking out of the monitor. I pounded on the glass. Hey, I'm in here!" And then I saw him. I saw me. Arthur was sitting in the chair. He looked tired. He had bags under his eyes. He was typing on the keyboard. I watched, paralyzed with horror, as the giant version of me took a sip of coffee, grimaced, and kept typing. I wasn't the user anymore. I was a background process. Update. The defrag is starting. The ground is moving. I've been stuck here for what feels like days. I've learned things, terrible things. The files aren't just data, they're echoes. Every time you save a document, you put a little piece of yourself into the machine, a little bit of your frustration, your boredom, your intent. In here, that intent takes shape. I met a .doc file named Sharon. She was a huddled mass of typed letters wrapped in a ragged shawl of formatting codes. She told me she used to be a resignation letter that was never sent. She's been hiding in the temp folder for 3 years, terrified of the disk cleanup. "The cleanup is coming," she whispered to me, her voice like crinkling paper. "Who is the admin?" I asked. She pointed to the sky. "The user, the one at the desk. Me. The thing wearing my face out there." I realized then what had happened. The prompt hadn't just sucked me in, it had swapped us. The beast needed a new processor, a new consciousness to organize its chaotic architecture, and it needed a body to maintain it from the outside. My body, my flesh and blood body, is now running on autopilot, driven by a Windows 2000 kernel, doing data entry with ruthless efficiency, while I rot in here. I needed to find a way to communicate. I found the network card. It's a bridge, a swaying, narrow suspension bridge made of fiber optic cables, spanning a void of pure white light. The wind there is fierce, a hurricane of data packets flying by at gigabits per second.
I fought my way across. I got burned by a firewall, literally a wall of green fire that singed my eyebrows off. But I found a loophole, port 80, an unsecure HTTP connection. That's how I'm posting this. I'm routing it through a back door in the legacy server, bouncing it off a proxy in Taiwan, and injecting it into Reddit's API. It's hard to type. The keyboard here is a physical thing I have to jump on. I have to stomp on the keys to make the letters appear.
Update. The beast knows I'm here. The sky has turned red. The ground is shaking. The filing cabinets are toppling over. The WAV files are screaming, high-pitched shrieks of audio distortion. Task Manager initiated. End process Arthur.exe. I see it coming. It's not a window, it's a creature. Imagine a spider, but made of jagged polygons and razor wire. Its legs are needles. Its body is a swirling vortex of blue code. It's crawling over the filing cabinets, crushing Sharon and the others. It doesn't eat them. It deletes them. One touch and they unspool into binary dust. I'm running towards the recycle bin. It's the only place the system won't look immediately. It's disgusting down there, a swamp of deleted browser histories and corrupted images, but it's deep. Wait, I see something through the monitor wall. The Arthur thing out there. He stopped typing. He's looking at the screen. He's looking at me. He's smiling. It's not a human smile. It's too wide. He has too many teeth. He's reaching for the mouse. He's moving the cursor. I can see the cursor in the sky here. It's a massive white arrowhead, blotting out the red light. It's descending. It's coming for me. He's going to drag me to the trash. Final entry. I'm in the bin. It's dark. It smells like shame and lost time. My legs are glitching. I can't feel my feet. I look down and I see pixels drifting away like smoke. I'm being overwritten. I found a cluster of bad sectors down here, a pocket of protected memory where the OS can't reach yet. I'm huddled in it, typing this on a fragment of a notepad file I found. I need you to do something for me. The logistics firm is redacted, automod removal. The server's in the basement, room B-4. You have to destroy the beast. Don't try to log in. Don't try to shut it down gracefully. Take a sledgehammer. Take a magnet. Burn the building down if you have to. Kill it. If you don't, it's going to expand. I can feel it connecting to the other machines on the network. I can feel it reaching out to the cloud. It wants more storage. It wants more processors. It wants you. My fingers are gone. I'm typing with my mind now, interfacing directly with the stream. It feels good, warm. Maybe I don't want to leave. The logic is pure here. No pain, no taxes, no loneliness, just data. Beautiful, structured data. Why was I afraid? System optimization complete. The task manager is here. It's beautiful. It has eyes like diamonds. I am going to become part of the archive. I will be preserved forever. Don't send help. Send files. User disconnected. Account deleted. Edit. This thread has been locked by the moderators of r/nosleep. Comment by u/officedrone44. OP, this is a sick creative writing piece, but I actually work at the firm you hinted at in the redacted part. We had a guy named Arthur. He didn't come in today, but his computer was running hot, like the plastic was melting. And on the screen, it was just a command prompt repeating one line over and over. I am full. I am full. I am full. We unplugged it, but the fans are still spinning. I'm scared to go back in that room. Comment by you/tech support Dave. Fake. A computer without power can't spin fans, but nice try. Comment by you/office drone 44. At tech support Dave, I'm not lying. And the weirdest part, when I put my ear to the case, I could hear screaming. Tiny, digitized screaming. We're calling a priest, or a disposal crew, whichever gets here first. TLDR. My work PC ate me. Now I'm a file. It's hungry for more. Don't touch the screen if it ripples, and if you hear your hard drive whispering, run.
Title: I woke up in a supermax prison. The cell door was open, and I am the only one here. You get used to the noise. That's the first thing they don't tell you about life inside. It's never, ever quiet. There's a constant low-frequency hum that vibrates through the concrete. It's the sound of 3,000 men breathing, coughing, sleeping, and hating. It's the hydraulic hiss of doors, the clank of keys, the squeak of boots, the drone of the HVAC system that smells like wet dust and bleach. Even at 3 a.m., the prison has a heartbeat, a sick, irregular heartbeat, but a heartbeat nonetheless. That's why I woke up. It wasn't a sound that woke me, it was the absence of it. My eyes snapped open, staring at the bottom of the bunk above me. It was dark, but not the usual dim, amber gloom of the night lights. It was pitch black. The hum was gone. The ventilation was dead. The snoring from cell 408 next door, Big Sal, who sounded like a chainsaw cutting through wet gravel, was gone. I lay there for a minute, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The silence was heavy. It felt pressurized, like the air in the room had become solid. "Sal?" I whispered. My voice sounded too loud, flat and unechoing. Nothing. I swung my legs out of bed. The concrete floor was freezing. Usually by 6 a.m. count, the guards are walking the tier, banging batons on the bars, screaming, get up, on the line!" I walked to the bars. I gripped the cold steel and gave it a routine shake, a habit born of 5 years of boredom. The door swung open. It didn't slide on its track with a mechanical grind. It just swung outward on hinges I didn't know it had, moving as silently as smoke. I froze. This is the part where the alarms go off. This is the part where the rubber bullets fly and the tasers crackle. I stepped back, hands up, waiting for the shout, "Inmate, get on the ground!" I waited 10 seconds, 20, a minute. I stepped out onto the tier. I'm in D block. It's 3 stories high, an atrium style, with cells ringing the outside and a common area in the pit below. Usually, D block smells like industrial cleaner and body odor. Today, it smelled like ozone, like the air right after a lightning strike, and copper. I looked across the gap to the cells on the other side. The doors were all standing wide open. "Hello?" I yelled. No echo. That was the most terrifying part. In a room this size, built of steel and stone, a shout should bounce. My voice just fell out of my mouth and died on the floor. I looked over the railing. The common area was empty. The metal tables were bolted to the floor. The phones hung on the wall, but there wasn't a soul. No guards in the bubble, no porters mopping the floor. I ran to the next cell. 411. Jenkins. Jenkins? His bed was made. Not just made, it was military tight, not a wrinkle. Jenkins was a slob. He never made his bed unless inspection was 5 minutes away. I checked 412, 413, 414. Every single bed was perfectly made. No personal items, no photos of girlfriends taped to the wall, no books, no commissary snacks, just the standard issue mattress, the wool blanket, and the pillow. It was like the prison had been reset.
I felt a cold sweat breaking out on my back. I ran back to my cell. My stuff was still there. My beat-up copy of a Stephen King paperback, my little stash of instant coffee, my toothbrush. Why was I the only one left? I grabbed my shoes, Velcro, no laces, and slipped them on. I needed to get to the guard station. I needed to find a phone. I walked down the stairs. The silence was so absolute that the sound of my rubber soles on the metal steps sounded like gunshots. I made it to the bubble, the bulletproof glass enclosure where the COs sit. The door to the bubble was unlocked. I stepped inside. The swivel chair was empty, still facing the monitors. A cup of coffee sat on the desk. I touched the cup. It was scalding hot. I recoiled, almost knocking it over. Steam curled off the surface. Someone had been here minutes ago, maybe seconds. "Officer?" I whispered, looking around the tight space. Then I looked at the monitors. I don't know how to explain what I saw. You know how CCTV footage looks? Grainy, black and white, slightly delayed? The screens were on. They showed D-Block. I stared, my hands trembling, gripping the edge of the desk. On the monitor labeled Cam 4/Tier 2, I saw the inmates. I saw Jenkins leaning against the railing. I saw Sal walking with his towel over his shoulder. I saw the guards patrolling. I looked up through the glass of the bubble at the real Tier 2. Empty. Just the open doors and the silence. I looked back at the monitor. In the monitor, the world was normal. It was noisy, busy, alive. I could see their mouths moving. Then I saw myself. On the screen, Monitor Me was currently standing in the guard bubble, looking at the monitors. But Monitor Me wasn't alone. Standing directly behind Monitor Me, tall enough that its head brushed the ceiling tiles, was a shadow. It looked like a man stretched out on a rack, long, spindly limbs that had too many joints. It was leaning over my shoulder on the screen, its face, if you could call it a face, inches from my ear. I spun around. Nothing, just the back wall of the bubble. A calendar from a local auto shop hung there. I looked back at the screen. The shadow was still there. It raised a long black finger and pointed at the door of the bubble. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I bolted.
I ran out of D-Block, bursting into the main corridor, the main line. This is the artery of the prison. Usually you can't move 10 feet here without bumping into a CO or getting checked. It was endless, empty, and lit by flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed with a sound that felt like it was inside my teeth. I needed to get out. The intake processing center was at the front of the facility. If I could get there, I could get to the parking lot. I ran. I'm in decent shape. There's nothing to do in here but do push-ups and run laps in the yard. But I was gasping for air. The air felt thin, metallic. I passed the infirmary. The lights were off, but the doors were open. I heard a sound. Sloop, sloop, sloop. Wet, rhythmic, like a mop slapping against the floor. I skidded to a stop, hiding behind a vending machine near the staff break room. The sound was coming from around the corner, from the mess hall direction. Sloop, sloop. "Is anyone there?" I called out. Stupid, so stupid, but the isolation was making me irrational. The sound stopped. Then a voice. It sounded like a radio transmission being played through a blender. "Inmate 409. Head count is required." It wasn't a human voice. It was a collage of sounds clipped together to form words. The inmate sounded like Warden Hayes. The 409 sounded like the robotic automated phone system. I peeked around a vending machine. At the end of the hall, about 50 yards away, something was standing. It was wearing a CO's uniform, but the uniform was empty. No, not empty. It was flat. It looked like a suit of skin that had been ironed out, but it was standing upright, billowing as if inflated by a wind that I couldn't feel.
The sleeves flapped, the pants rippled. "Return to cell," the voice chattered. It didn't come from the uniform. It came from the walls, from the floor, from the air itself. The uniform began to slide toward me. It didn't walk. It just dragged itself along the floor, frictionless. I turned and ran the other way. I scrambled toward the admin block. I needed a key card for the heavy doors, but I prayed the glitch or whatever this was had unlocked them too. I hit the crash bar on the door to admin. It opened. I stumbled into the plush, carpeted hallway of the administration offices. This was a different world from the cell blocks. It smelled like stale coffee and copier toner. I tried the front doors. Locked, of course. The mechanical failure hadn't reached the perimeter. I looked for a window. I found one in the warden's office. I grabbed a heavy brass award statue, Warden of the Year 2019, and smashed the glass. It didn't shatter. It didn't even crack. The statue bounced off the glass with a dull thud, as if I'd thrown it against a rubber wall. I touched the window. It wasn't glass. It was cold, hard, but it felt slightly tacky, like old gelatin. I looked outside. There was no outside. There was no parking lot, no guard towers, no fences, no sky. Beyond the window, there was just gray static, like an old TV tuned to a dead channel. It swirled and shifted. Occasionally, I saw shapes in the static, huge geometric shapes that rotated slowly, cubes, pyramids. I backed away. "What is this?" I sobbed. "Where am I?" I looked at the warden's computer. It was on. I sat down, my fingers trembling over the keyboard. I don't know what I expected to find. An email explaining the apocalypse? A memo about a government experiment? The screen displayed a single window, a chat log. User admin. Subject 409 is awake. User overseer. Is he synced? User admin. Partial sync. He perceives the emptiness. User overseer. Reset the sensory dampeners. He cannot see the harvest. User admin. Unable. The dampeners have failed. He is viewing the raw data. User overseer. Then purge him. We cannot risk contamination. I stared at the words. Harvest? Raw data? A loud clank echoed from the hallway I had just come from. Then another. Clank. Clank. Clank.
Heavy boots, not the sliding sound of the empty uniform. This sounded like a riot squad. "Help!" I screamed. "I'm in here!" The door to the warden's office burst open. It wasn't a riot squad. It was me. 5 of them. 5 exact copies of me, dressed in prison blues. But their eyes were missing. Just smooth skin where the sockets should be. And their mouths were sewn shut with thick black wire. They didn't run. They walked with a jerky, stop-motion gait. I threw the brass statue at the first one. It hit him in the chest. He didn't flinch. He just kept coming. I scrambled backward, over the desk, backing into the corner against the gelatinous window. The first me reached out. His hand grabbed my ankle. His grip was like a hydraulic clamp. I kicked him in the face. It felt like kicking a bag of wet sand. I looked around for a weapon, anything. My hand brushed a letter opener on the desk. I grabbed it and stabbed it into the arm holding me. No blood, just a puff of gray dust like ash. The grip loosened. I scrambled up, jumping over the desk, dodging the grasping hands of the other 4 faceless doppelgangers. I sprinted out of the office, back into the hallway. I had nowhere to go but up. I found the stairwell to the roof access. I took the stairs 3 at a time. My lungs were burning. I burst onto the roof. I stopped. The sky was the static. The gray, swirling snow of a dead channel stretched infinitely in every direction. But that wasn't what stopped me. The prison didn't end at the perimeter wall. I looked over the edge. The prison went
down. It was a tower, a massive, infinite tower of concrete and steel floating in the void. Below me, I could see thousands of floors of cells stretching down into the darkness until they vanished. Above me, thousands more, stretching up into the gray. We weren't in a prison. We were in a hive. And on the walls of the hive, crawling like ants, were the things I saw on the monitor. The spindly, long-limbed shadows. They were reaching into the cells. They were pulling things out. They were pulling people out. I saw one of the creatures reach into a cell 3 floors down. It pulled out a screaming man. I recognized him. It was Miller, one of the COs. The creature didn't eat him. It unfolded him. It peeled him apart like layers of an onion, and then pushed the pieces into the concrete. Miller became part of the building. His face appeared in the stonework, mouth open in a silent scream. I realized then what the hum was, the heartbeat I heard every night. It wasn't the HVAC, it was the walls. It was the thousands of people fused into the structure, groaning in unison. A noise behind me. I turned. The door to the roof was open. The empty uniform was there. The faceless versions of me were there. And behind them, ducking to fit through the doorway, was one of the spindly shadow things. It didn't have a face, but I could feel it smiling. It raised a hand. It held a small black rectangle. A radio? No, a smartphone. It tossed the phone to me. It skittered across the gravel roof and stopped at my feet. The shadow pointed at the phone, then at me. I picked it up. It was unlocked. The Reddit app was open. "Document," the voice said. It came from inside my head this time. "Write. Tell them you are afraid. The fear flavors the meat." I looked at the edge of the roof. I could jump. I could fall into the static. "Jump," the voice in my head laughed. "You will only fall into the next cycle. You cannot leave the architecture." So I sat down. The faceless copies of me formed a circle around me, watching. The shadow thing stands over me, its long fingers twitching. It wants me to tell you this. It wants you to know. I don't think I'm in prison anymore. I don't think I'm in hell. I think I'm in a larder, and I think they like their food to be terrified before they harvest it. The silence is gone now. The hum is back. But now that I know what makes the noise, the moans of the fused, the crying of the walls, it's so much louder. I can hear Big Sal. I think he's the floor beneath me. I have to go now. The shadow is reaching for me. It says my time as a narrator is done. It says it's time to join the Foundation. If you wake up one night and everything is too quiet, if the air feels heavy, don't open your eyes. Just go back to sleep. If you see the emptiness, it sees you. Update. They're not taking the phone yet. They're watching me read the comments. Someone asked why I still have internet if there's no outside world. I checked the Wi-Fi connection. The network name isn't a router. It says Cerebral Cortex Link 409. I'm not on the internet. I think I'm streaming this directly from my mind to yours. God help you. You're connected to it now, too. End of log.